wanted to talk to you about a really special plant. This is the curry leaf plant, also known as sweet neem tree or Morea Carnegie, which is its Latin name. It's a really unusual plant to see here in the UK, and it's one of my favourites. If you just rub these leaves here, you can instantly get the smell of curry leaves on your fingers. Because they are a plant that comes from more tropical climates, they do need a little bit of mollycoddling, so they're not the easiest plant to grow, but with a little bit of care, you can grow these as a house plant here in the UK and get an abundance of tasty leaves for your curries. Now, the first thing to remember with a curry leaf plant, as I've said, is from a hotter country. It likes it hot. You can't even grow this outside on a patio successfully. The warmer the room, the more the leaves are going to grow on and the more harvest you're going to get from them. So we say a minimum of 10 degrees, but actually if you can keep it warmer, above 15 degrees, which is normal house temperature in the winter, then that will let the leaves grow on better and it will mean that you'll have a bigger plant and a bigger harvest. So curry leaves like it hot. They're an indoor house plant here in this country. They really don't like to be overwatered. The biggest mistake that people make with these plants is trying to look after them too well and keeping watering them, especially through the winter months. You want the top of the soil to be really bone dry before you water, and that's true in the summer, so you'd let the top of the soil dry out before you ever watered. But in the winter, you almost don't water at all. Here in the nursery in Sussex where we grow these, it's quite humid. So we actually don't water these plants at all, not one drop between the end of October and the end of February. That's because they're not growing at that time of year and they just don't like wet feet. So if you keep watering them, then the soil gets wet, the roots get wet, and eventually it's going to keel over and say enough's enough. And for the same reason, you don't ever want to grow curry leaf plants in too big a pot. So you want to have them in quite a small pot, and also you only ever want to repot in the growing season. They're growing the most strongly between April and May, so that's a really good time to repot these plants. This one is actually much bigger than the pot itself, so about 3 times the size of the pot that it's in. So this is at the stage where you could repot it. When you repot, you don't want to go too ginormous, so deep is good, like these 4-litre deep pots I've got here. And I'm going to just show you with this one how to repot it. So I've got an empty 4-litre pot. I'm going to just gently ease the young plant out of the plastic 1 litre that it's been growing on in. It's been about a year in this pot, and now the roots should be nice and full, and you can see that the roots are also white in here, which means that they're growing freshly at the moment, so it is a good time of year to repot. I'm going to put some drainage in the bottom. So here in the nursery we use this, which is perlite, which is a light natural product which just helps add a little bit of extra drainage into the pot. I'm going to put my soil in with a bit of stones. I've got a few stones in here as well, and I'm going to have a mixture of soil and perlite all together. It makes you cough a little bit, this, because it's very, very dusty, but it just helps with that, keeping the mixture really nice and light and making sure that there's not too much water around those roots. So I'm just going to put a little bit more soil, so it's mainly drainage at the bottom, and I'm putting some more soil in. And this is a container compost. It's something that we get made up in the nursery, but you can see it's very loose, and again, it lets water drain away. You could buy something like that in a garden centre very easily. Anything suitable for shrubs and long-term growing would be fine. And then we want to put the plant in here, and we're going to fill the soil up all the way around, bring it up to soil level. So you always, when you're planting plants, usually want to make sure that the pot that you're planting from matches the soil level in the new pot. Just going to scoop that in, pot that all the way around. I've got a little bit of extra compost here. I'm just going to top that up around the top, make sure that it's well firmed in. And they're delicate roots on the curry leaf plant, so you don't want to be too rough with it, and just gently press it down all the way around so that it's nice and firm. I'm going to give this a little bit of a water in so that it sets the soil nicely, and so that the soil around that root is all nice and damp. But then, because it doesn't like being wet, it'll be a little while before I water again. So I'm going to give it a good water through, and then it will be this time of year, probably at least a week before I need to water again, and I'll be checking the top of the soil to see whether it's dried out properly and whether it's ready for a little bit of another water. Here in the nursery, we grow a lot of citrus trees, so we tend to use citrus feed on the curry leaves as well. They're a very similar plant in terms of their makeup. They're from the same family, so they like a lot of the same ingredients that citrus do. Nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium, but they also need quite a lot of trace elements to keep the leaves nice and green and healthy and to make sure that they keep growing on and grow on well for you. We use a winter citrus feed, just a little scoop in here, and you put 1 scoop in a pot in the watering can. 1 scoop is 1 gram, and that mixes up to with 1 litre of water, and you'd want to give it a little bit of a squish and a little bit of a stir to make sure that that feed is all mixed up in there, and then you'd give it a little bit of water. Now we've already put a little bit of water through, so now we're putting a bit of a feed through, and then that will be it for this plant for at least a week until the top of the soil has dried out. Finally, because the leaves of these plants are so tasty and so fragrant, everything seems to like them. So aphids, caterpillars, scale insects are all pests that can attack your plants, and the sooner you spot them and the sooner you deal with them, the better. Aphids and caterpillars, you'll normally see them on the young growth at the top. You just want to pick them out with your finger and thumb and get rid of them. If you find that you've got any brown stickiness, again, you want to treat it sooner rather than later. But if you follow these simple tips, hot, careful with the watering, keep them in the right size pot, keep a little eye on them, talk to them. A little plant like the one that I've just potted up here will double in size over a summer period. It always grows best in the summer, and you'll get so many fragrant leaves, and the difference between fresh leaves straight off the tree and the dried packets you can buy is just out of this world.